Hello, everyone. Welcome to Robert Wenzel Talks Economics. I'm Robert Wenzel. Today's topic is the ugly truth about tariffs. Well, President Trump has started a trade war with China. He's placed tariffs on a slew of products that we import from China. It's a 25% tariff now. In retaliation, the Chinese have placed a tariff on a number of goods the U.S. manufacturers ship to China. It's a mess. It's ugly. President Trump claims that the tariffs that he has put on Chinese products are paid for by the Chinese. A number of mainstream media have reported on economists who claim that the tariffs are actually paid by U.S. consumers. It's actually more complex than that. And that's what we're going to dig in today, make it simple, and help you understand what's really going on and how ugly it really is. So let's begin. Assume there is a tax on a tariff on a candy bar. Let's assume that there's a Chinese manufacturer who makes a candy bar and sells it in the United States for $1 per bar. Okay. Now I'm not going to include the wholesaler in this and the retailer. We're going to assume it's a vertical integrated manufacturing company that sells directly to the U.S. consumer. We could include the wholesaler and retailer, but it would make it much more complex than is necessary. And I'm just trying to get across the basics here of how the tariffs work. So we've got this candy bar that's being sold for $1, and we've got a situation where Donald Trump now puts a tariff on the candy bar of 25%. So the manufacturer may say, Americans, I can raise it by 25 cents a candy bar because they won't notice, they won't really care. So what happens is the pre-tariff candy bar is $1. Now after the tariff, the American consumer notices it's 25 cents more at $1.25. But he shrugs and buys the candy bar. So there's no problem from the Chinese manufacturer's perspective. He doesn't pay for any of the tariff. It's all paid for by the U.S. consumer. Now, on the other hand, suppose the Chinese manufacturer understands or tries to put in the $1.25 tax, but sales collapse at a level that won't make the business profitable for him. So he has to somehow recognize that he has to drop the price of the candy bar, let's say to $1.15 post tariff. But the tariff is 25 cents now. So let's say he had a profit margin of 20 cents. So what he may say is, okay, I'll drop it to $1.15. That way the U.S. consumer will pay 15 cents out of the tariff, and I'll absorb the other 10 cents. So instead of making a profit of 20 cents, now I'll only make a profit of 10 cents, and the other 10 cents will go to pay the part of the tariff that the U.S. consumer is not paying. So there you have a situation where it's a complex situation where the consumer pays part of it and the Chinese manufacturer pays part of it. But there are other possibilities. Let's say that the consumer is not willing to pay any part of the tax, that if he raises the price of the candy bar by 5 cents, sales will collapse. But let's assume that he has a 30% profit margin. 30 cents of that dollar is profit. So if the tariff is 25 cents, he can say, well, I'll only make 5 cents, but I'm going to have to absorb this because if I raise the price, consumers are going to stop buying. So there's 3 possibilities right there. You can have a situation where the consumer pays the whole tariff, where it's a combination of the manufacturer and the consumer, or it could be the manufacturer entirely. But there's a 4th possibility. Let's say the tariff is 25%, consumer does not want to pay any of it, won't pay any of it, and the Chinese manufacturer's profit margin is only 20% or 20 cents. So he sees that he has to pay a tariff of 25%, but his profit margin is only 20%. He can't raise the price to American consumers because they won't pay for it. So he has to go out of business. He has to shut down, close his manufacturing plant. Now, some in the United States will think this is a good idea. As a matter of fact, President Trump hails it all the time. He's telling us how he's bringing back steelworker jobs by various tariffs that he has put on steel. So we have to look at this now and understand what's going on when a new job, quote, new job is created in the United States because of a tariff. what we first have to understand is that now we'll talk about steel. If steel is blocked from coming in because of a tariff, because the tariff is so high, what happens is that steel workers must be drawn out of other parts of the labor market to make the steel. It's not a case where they are basically just sort of hanging around. They're in other parts working. But now they see a better opportunity, higher wages, and they're making steel here in the United States. So people may think, and even the steel workers are going to think, wow, this is great. You know, these people are now earning more money than they did before. But what's really going on is there's less product being brought into the country, and the laborer that was in some other section, and remember, there's never a shortage of work. The labor price would be $1, a penny, or zero if there was no work. I hereby bid $1 for 5 workers. I need a butler. I need a chauffeur. I need a gopher. I need a maid. I need all kinds of people to help me out. But I can't get those people at those prices because they have other options and other opportunities. There is no shortage of opportunities for labor here in the United States. So basically, if we have a situation where steel is cranking up again and they have to take workers, bid them up from somewhere else, so that the laborer may actually make more money, and he thinks, wow, this is great. You know, Donald Trump has done great things for me. He's blocked the Chinese. I have a job. We're making steel in America again. But what Donald Trump has really done by this type of thing is he's blocked steel so that the laborers have to come and make the steel in the United States. So whatever that laborer was doing before, he's not doing that now. So it's a shrinkage of the amount of goods and services available in the United States. Has to be, cannot be. But still, at this point, the steel worker may be happy with the situation because he's making more money, and other people may see this and say, well, it's a good trade-off. But the protectionist tariff mentality doesn't stop with the steel worker. President Trump has tariffs on electronics. He's got it on clothes. He's got it on different types of agricultural products in different countries. It's all over the place. It doesn't stop. So what happens is the more and more tariffs that put foreigners out of the business of being able to make the product, it means that product may be made here in the United States, drawing laborers from other parts of the economy. So what it really does is to shrink the economy because these laborers now have to make these products in the United States. They weren't they're not able to make what they were working on before, so it shrinks the total pool of product available in the country. Now, at this point, the steel worker may be making more money, but he's bidding on a smaller and smaller pool because it's happening everywhere. The clothing, the electronics, it's all being done. Sneakers, they're all being made here in the United States instead of overseas. So all these laborers that were in other sectors, because the Chinese and other foreigners were shipping in the product, now have to make this product, so they can't make what they were making before. Shrink, shrink, shrink. So the steel worker may dollar-wise be making more money, but he's bidding up for a smaller pool of product. And what you're really seeing is a shrinkage of the entire pool of product in the United States. It's a lowering of the standard of living. It's very difficult to understand that, but that is one of the problems. So we get all kinds of problems with tariffs. It could just be an outright case where you're paying more money for it. The tariff money ends up with the government, and who knows how they use it. It could be a combination of a split between the consumer and the Chinese manufacturer, which sort of kills incentive because Chinese manufacturers may look now and say, well, there's a market in the United States for this, but who knows what the tariffs are going to be tomorrow, where they'll slap a tariff on this. So it kills a lot of incentive for Chinese manufacturers to sell goods here. And then we have the situation where the Chinese manufacturer may absorb the entire tariff, and again, it's the incentive problem. And then we have the situation where the foreign manufacturer has to shut down because he just can't supply the product at a profit anymore because of the how high the tariff is. So it's a bad thing across the board. It shrinks the overall product. That's the one thing that very, very few people understand. It's very, very dangerous that way, and not a good thing for an economy. Standard of living just drops across the board. At the same time, it makes no sense to retaliate against a country that is acting protectionist. So it doesn't make sense for China to do what they're doing. They should really just continue to open the borders, because when you have open borders, it's more product flowing into the country to free your people up to do other things. It raises the standard of living by product increasing across the board. Tariffs are a very dangerous thing. Protectionism, very bad thing. It's all very ugly, and it's not helping any of us at all, and it never